newspapers. And I know that Professor Eunice greatly appreciated that editorial. Salt Lake City has 2 newspapers. We're probably one of the very few cities that still have 2 newspapers. One is the Salt Lake Tribune, which is owned by Dean Singleton and Media One, which owns lots of newspapers. And the second newspaper is the Deseret News, which is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. While the Deseret News has a smaller circulation, I can tell you from experience over many years of handing our members of Congress editorials that they're only persuaded by editorials written by the Deseret News. Now, Jay has a tough job because his editorials are not only seen as representing the views of the newspaper, but also the views of its owner, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The paper's not only read by Utahns, but it's read by church members throughout the world. We all wonder often whether our actions make a difference, and I know that Jay has had similar thoughts. And this reminds me of a quotation from Gandhi. It's the action, not the fruit of the action, that's important. It may not be in your power, it may not be in your time, that there will be any fruit. But that doesn't mean that you stop doing the right thing. You may never know what results come from your action, but if you do nothing, you know there will be no result. Now, I happen to know for a fact that at least once, one of Jay's editorials changed a vote in Congress. A few years back, you might remember that we worked hard on PEPFAR reauthorization. And the President's emergency plan for AIDS relief. I was sitting in the waiting room of Senator Hatch's office here in Washington, waiting to meet with one of his aides, when Senator Hatch happened to walk through. And I spoke to him, and I asked him about the PEPFAR vote that was going to come up the next day. And he grumbled about corruption and too much money. And so I, standing there in his waiting room, I tried to address those concerns. And then I said, well, did you see the editorial in the Deseret News? He said, no. And I happen to have it in my hand. Oh, well, here. And so he read it and grumbled a little bit and handed it back and disappeared. And the next day, at the invitation of Senator Bennett's aide, I was invited up to the gallery of the Senate. And from that gallery, I watched Senator Hatch vote against reducing the proposed funding for PEPFAR. Now, I suspect that Jay may not realize that his eloquent words have been placed in the hands of not only Utahns, but we placed in the hands of policymakers throughout the country. Jay has a keen interest in the whole world, not just our local community. And that's a view that's getting harder and harder to find in journalists that work for local newspapers. With Jay here this evening is his wife, Kirsty. Would you please stand? They're parents of 5 children and grandparents of 2. We live in a country where the current topic of discussion is what additional advantages should be given to those who are already the most advantaged. At the same time, Jay is a thoughtful, reasoned, caring voice for those whose voices are not being heard. It's with pleasure that I present the 2011 Cameron Duncan Award to Jay Evenson.